A major southern winter storm beginning for many on this Tuesday, continuing into tomorrow, and surprise snow potential come Thursday. Welcome in, everybody. A lot to talk about in today's video. We've got all sorts of things going on out there with this major winter storm that is going to bring double-digit snowfall, ice concerns, and even a bit of a surprise setup for some snow that I'm going to talk about in today's video. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. Great way to stay up to date for any other storms on the way after this one. And trust me, we're going to be active all year with severe weather coming up and then hurricane season. You're going to want to be subscribed and having those notifications ready for the next major storm. And thank you to our new channel members. We had some new folks join last night during our live stream, and thanks to everyone that tuned in. Had a lot of support on that, and we'll do it again tonight. We'll be live answering your questions on this major storm. Latest maps, latest data, and latest snow and ice totals will be the theme for that. Alrighty, folks, with that said, let's go ahead and dive on into the data. And you can already see out there, we've got snow falling. So comment, let me know where you're watching from and what you're seeing out there. It's always helpful to kind of compare model guidance compared to radar, compared to what you're actually seeing on the ground during these events. So definitely send me those reports down below. But you can see this winter storm beginning to crank up. That blue being snow already falling over St. Louis, back towards Springfield. The real bulk of the storm, though, just getting going. And I think this afternoon and evening, you'll really see a lot more folks in Kansas and Missouri down to Oklahoma and Arkansas begin to feel this storm crank up. And then overnight tonight through Tennessee, Kentucky, and then tomorrow the Carolinas get in on the action. And you can see it as well on our satellite loop. You might be wondering, well, Gerald, all I see are a bunch of colors on the map. What are you talking about? Well, notice this little piece of energy back over towards Nevada and Utah. This is our trough, or our storm trigger, if you will. And basically, it's helping to create all this lift on the right-hand side. This is what we call the diverging side of a trough, basically. That's where air is separating above us about halfway up the atmosphere. That creates rising motion at the surface, and that's leading to enough lift for low pressure to begin to deepen and some snow to begin to fall over the region. And that area of divergence going to continue to push east with the storm, and that's where the storm's going to track, is right in that favorable zone of upper level ingredients for cyclogenesis at the surface. Now, latest alerts out there, map really beginning to fill in. Winter storm warnings in the pink. That includes much of Kansas, including Kansas City, down through the Ozarks of Missouri and Arkansas, even Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now in a winter storm warning, then stretching back towards Memphis, Nashville, much of Kentucky. And then you see a little bit of a gap, and then another area of winter storm warnings in eastern North Carolina, Elizabeth City, back out towards Rocky Mount, southern Virginia, specifically southeastern Virginia, Newport News, Virginia Beach, and even getting into the southern portions of the Delmarva and the Chesapeake under those pink boxes. And all the purple you see, those are winter weather advisories, where the forecast still calls for snow and ice, just not as much as the areas in the pink. Those stretching all the way from northern Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, heck, all the way down to the I-20 corridor of Louisiana, where we could see some icing. That also includes Charlotte, back over towards Oklahoma City. And those could be upgraded as well to winter storm warnings, depending on the trends we see throughout the day today. But definitely a map filling in and showing that big southern winter storm not hard to find here as we take a look at those alerts. Now, let's go ahead and dive right into the model data, folks, because I think that's going to be the key in today's video, is trying to give you the latest timing, totals, and impacts from this storm system. This is what we're seeing out there right about now. So, again, let me know if this is what you're actually seeing on the ground. If you live out here, tell me what's falling from the sky, or if nothing's falling from the sky. That information is also useful. But as we go throughout this afternoon, I do expect radar to kind of fill in here, and you can see that on the latest high-resolution rapid refresh. A band of heavy snow into northern Oklahoma, northern Arkansas, southern Kansas, and southern Missouri. Going to be the bullseye of the snow back out into the plains to the south. Little Rock back over to OKC, Fort Smith, and icy mess throughout the day today, and likely continuing as I move the map ahead into tonight. Notice this storm just continues to cause all sorts of havoc. And I'll tell you, folks, some of these snowfall rates could be pretty impressive by the time we get to about rush hour tonight, pictured next to me. Yeah, you don't want to be driving out there. We're going to have heavy snowfall rates in Cape Girardeau, back into northern Arkansas, Springfield, Joplin, Missouri. You're going to see moderate to heavy snowfall rates And like I mentioned, that icy mess back out towards Little Rock, where we're going to see sleet, freezing rain, and snow kind of fight over the main precipitation type. And then we'll keep on moving it ahead here. Heavy snow and ice then beginning in Memphis by this evening and overnight tonight. Plenty of blue showing up into western Kentucky. Again, western Tennessee there. Memphis eventually working towards Nashville. We'll move the map east here in a second. You can see those areas a little bit better. Also, extreme southern Illinois into Carbondale. Southern Indiana going to see some snow out of this one. Can't forget about you folks. And then as we go a little bit deeper into the overnight, that ice and snow line tries to creep south. I think Little Rock, mostly icy mess to start the event, changing to snow on the back end. Then we could even see some light ice down towards Shreveport and Monroe, Louisiana, including portions of northern Mississippi where some winter weather would be possible overnight tonight. And then that gets us right here to tomorrow morning on Wednesday. All clear, the storm pulling away and an Arctic air mass moving in, bringing dangerous cold for some folks. And that'll be a topic we talk about as well towards the end of the video. All right, so that's kind of fun to look at the map, but now how much snow is actually going to fall? Well, this is the latest forecast from the NWS snowfall throughout the day today. So depending on when you're watching this, subtract whatever you've gotten from these totals, and that's the expected forecast from the National Weather Service. And I think it's a pretty good forecast, so I would give you my own thoughts, but this is basically my thoughts. The area of right around 10 to 12 inches is going to be most likely down here towards Springfield, Joplin, extreme northern Arkansas, and extreme kind of northeastern Oklahoma here could potentially see those double-digit totals. But either way, a big footprint here into the southern half of Missouri, southeastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, and northern Arkansas of right around half a foot of snow. Then you move south, the forecast gets a little tougher for folks out here into Oklahoma City, Little Rock, Memphis. So where we're going to be in that battleground zone, could start as ice and then transition to snow. So that area is going to be a solid kind of 1 to 3 kind of inch event in some of those cities, including Fort Smith, I think, where it's going to be 1 to 3 of a slushy, icy mess. Probably not pure snowfall down that way. And then on the northern edge, a tough forecast as well. St. Louis going for 3 inches. Just to your south, though, by 50 miles or so, it could be half a foot of snow. So very sharp gradient on the northern side and the southern side, and that's where the forecast is the toughest, including Kansas City. Here's that northern edge, kind of tough forecast in that region. But right here in the bullseye, feeling confident. We're going to get half a foot to a foot of snowfall, and definitely a couple of those double-digit numbers mixed in there, especially towards Joplin and Springfield. I think that area really going to cash in on some heavy snowfall totals, and that's not even mentioning the ice. The ice threat very real today, upwards of 1/4 of an inch possible into the Fort Smith area, back over towards Little Rock around 1/10 of an inch, Oklahoma City around 1/10 of an inch, even back down towards the Red River Valley, towards the Texas state line, could see a glaze to 1/10 of an inch of ice out of this event. Luckily, not a crippling ice storm by any means, but anytime you get this much ice right into this region here, that's definitely enough to cause very treacherous travel, and even a couple power outages going to be possible with numbers like this. So that's throughout the day today, and then again, luckily by tomorrow morning we're all done. So today's the big day for folks out here into the southern plains. And that kind of gets us on into the eastern U.S., where the forecast is complicated, to say the least. And I do want to start with this. I'm going to start with the upper level features here and just kind of give you an idea of why this forecast is so tough for these areas. So this is tomorrow afternoon. What you're looking at is 500 millibar vorticity. Basically, this is where we have spin in the atmosphere about halfway up in terms of mass. And a couple areas that probably jump out immediately. We've got a circle here over Minnesota, Illinois, or Iowa rather. We've got that. That's a pocket of cold air and lower pressure. That is helping to create the spin that's kind of leading to some of that lift out ahead of the storm here. That's why the storm's even happening in the first place. Now, on the back end side, you kind of see where these lines come together. That's where we have convergence. That's where that Arctic air mass is settling in behind the storm system. Again, this Wednesday afternoon picture next to me, as we go ahead into time, folks, the divergence begins to pick up here into the Carolinas and Virginia, and that would definitely suggest, generally speaking, that we would get some snowfall. There's another problem, though. The winds at the surface here are hitting the Appalachia chain. The apps are kind of soaking up some of that precip, and then they're going back down the Appalachia chain, and that creates sinking motion. That sinking motion leads to drier air, and that could be a forecast spoiler for areas like Greensboro, Charlotte, the upstate of South Carolina. A very tough forecast in there. Luckily, all the lift is still in the eastern Carolinas. You're a little bit closer to the Atlantic. That gets more instability and moisture in the atmosphere. So a higher confidence that eastern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia, going to have more precipitation to work with. So that's the first problem, or the first tough part of the forecast. Another tough part comes Thursday morning, pictured below, or next to me, I should say. You kind of see here's that area of low pressure, that area of lower heights, that big storm in the mid levels right over Ohio. This is what we call an upper level low, upper level energy. And I was talking about divergence. That's whenever these lines begin to separate. Well, we've got a ton of separation right over the Piedmont of North Carolina, as far south as Charlotte, Rock Hill, maybe even as far south as the upstate and the Midlands of South Carolina, all the way up through eastern Virginia and then riding up the East Coast. Some of the models hinting at another band of snow, that surprise snow I mentioned earlier, come Thursday morning right into this region. And I don't think it would be a lot, but if you kind of flake out tomorrow afternoon and all the precipitation is to your east, watch out for Thursday morning, another time frame that a secondary area of snow could begin to develop. Also, could this be enough that maybe this low gets pulled inland just enough that we get some snow in southern New Jersey, out into the Cape, Nantucket? Also a possibility we need to watch for. So I know the storm is tomorrow and Thursday in this part of the country, but still a lot of questions we need to answer. And what I'm going to go ahead and do here is show you the two possibilities. I'm going to show you the boom forecast and the bust forecast, and then kind of give you the in-between totals that are most likely. But this is important, I think. With a forecast this uncertain, even only a day beforehand, it's best to show you the high-end possibilities and the lower-end possibilities. So we'll start with the boom forecast. For all my snow lovers, this is what you want to see. This is our FV3 model. Normally overdoes it a little bit. However, I'll give it credit. If memory serves me correctly, back in late January, this model was actually pretty close to reality for the kind of extent of the precipitation shield in that Gulf Coast storm in the Carolinas. Did pretty good in that area. So we'll use it as the boom forecast. I think it's kind of got more than most models right now anyway, so it's a fair metric to use. All right, this is overnight tonight. We'll pick up where we left off. It's got snow as far south as northern Mississippi, northern Alabama. I mentioned winter weather advisors in those areas. Tough forecast for you guys as well. Some of the models show basically nothing. Others, like this one, the boom model, kind of show an inch or two possible in those areas. It shows good snowfall totals in Kentucky, back down into Tennessee. Just a nice swath of snow with a couple of hours of moderate snow overnight tonight. And then that gets us right here into Wednesday morning, tomorrow morning. We've got good snow falling in Chattanooga, into the mountains of North Georgia. We've got snow in Kentucky, West Virginia, Virginia. We'll move it ahead into time, even get some snow to fall down in Greenville, Spartanburg, into the foothills of the Carolinas. This model saying that downward compressing motion in the atmosphere is going to be kind of counteracted with that lift that is happening above it over the Carolinas, plus this low pressure kind of trying to throw moisture back out ahead of it. That's what this model is suggesting. So that's why this is the boom scenario. Shows more snow than most into the upstate of South Carolina, into the western half of North Carolina, North Georgia, and then keeps that big shield of snow. Doesn't really have the big dry slot a lot of the models have. And because of that, we've got a nice swath of snow starting Wednesday afternoon here into Charlotte, back up towards Mooresville, Huntersville, up into the Triad, and then even into the Triangle. You can see a nice shield of snow, the ice beginning to mix in. You had a couple of hours of moderate snow in Charlotte with some icing on the south side of the city towards Pineville, Mint Hill, Monroe, Wadesboro, seeing some ice with this model, but purely snow up towards Lake Norman, up into the Triad, southern Virginia, Danville, Newport News, Virginia Beach getting all snow. And then the storm really begins to crank up off the coast. This is Wednesday evening. We've got a band of heavy snowfall rates. We're talking an inch or two an hour out here towards Elizabeth City, back out towards Roanoke Rapids, into Virginia Beach, Newport News, even Danville getting some moderate snow, the Triad getting moderate snow, the Triangle kind of in that icy mix zone, Raleigh on this model, kind of sleet, freezing rain fest, and then snow to the northern half of the city. And then that kind of frozen precip, even trying to get all the way back down into the PD of South Carolina here on the FV3 model. Storm continues cranking up. Heavy snow and ice continues overnight Wednesday. It kind of ends by about the midnight hour going into Thursday morning. And then you can kind of see the storm pulling away and getting up into Virginia. This would be Thursday morning. And that's kind of the boom scenario. Now, I'm going to actually change it here really quickly to one more model. This is the NAM model. I also want to show you that surprise snow potential. While we're talking about the boom side, this could be the boom surprise side of things. So here's the NAM. Notice a lot drier than the other model I showed you with the main piece of energy, with the main storm that everyone's kind of talking about. It kind of moves up. Still good storm for Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina, but Charlotte gets robbed. Greensboro gets kind of robbed. The upstate of South Carolina gets robbed. This gets us into the evening of Wednesday, and here we go, late Wednesday into Thursday. Look at this secondary band of snow showing up. Charlotte, you got robbed Wednesday. Well, the NAM says, I'll take care of you here overnight Wednesday with a nice area of light to moderate snow from upstate South Carolina all the way up into the Triad, into Danville, Southwest Virginia, folks in Blacksburg, Roanoke, and kind of surrounding areas along the US 81 corridor, and then get some good snow up into West Virginia. But this is the surprise potential. I mean, look at that, folks. Overnight Wednesday into Thursday, that's a nice band of snow on the back end of this thing that could produce some notable snowfall. So that's the boom potential. Let's take a look at the bust potential, because this one is just as likely to happen. I mean, folks, really, the model's all over the place. This is the high-resolution rapid refresh model. We'll get a new run of this not long from now, but this is the latest run we have. Here we go. Pretty similar for Kentucky, Tennessee. Less snow in northern Alabama, northern Mississippi. And here we go. Watch the thing just dry up as it gets to North Georgia. Really nothing in North Georgia, nothing in upstate South Carolina. Then the main piece of energy phases off to the coast, and we do get that new area of low pressure to develop, and thus that snow gets kind of getting going here in northeastern North Carolina, Elizabeth City, back out towards Rocky Mount, kind of an icy mix. Virginia Beach, Newport News getting some snow. Heck, even up into the Delmarva and the Tidewater trying to get some snow out of this model run. And then notice again, the low pressure developing, getting deeper, and that back end energy trying to build, and it's trying to get this band of snow to build back towards Charlotte. It just never quite gets there on this model. And this really is a pretty confined winter storm to the triangle up into northeast North Carolina and southeast Virginia. And again, you kind of see a little bit of energy here Wednesday evening, trying to build back in, just never quite does so. Then that's as far as the model goes, but you can see by overnight and into early Thursday, you can see that next little band of surprise snow potential trying to come save the day in the Piedmont. We'll see if that happens. So two models, two very different solutions. Where does that get us in the forecast? Well, here's what the NWS is going with. I agree with this for Kentucky and Tennessee. I think a big swath of Kentucky, it's going to be a solid 3 to 5 inch snow event through the central and eastern part of the state. Back towards Paducah, Cape Girardeau, Mayfield, could crack half a foot of snow. Would not surprise me, but kind of Pikeville into Lexington, Louisville, really Lexington, kind of the southern half of the state here in the central part. Could be a good 2 to 4, 3 to 5 inch event. Up towards Cincinnati, a dusting to an inch or two, not out of the question. Same story for just southern Ohio in general. Tennessee, Nashville, going about 2 to 3 inches. That sounds about right. Memphis, about 1 to 2 inches. The biggest winner in Tennessee going to be northwestern Tennessee towards Missouri and Kentucky. That area could get 2 to 4, 3 to 5 inches. Not out of the question. But notice they're going with lower totals for northern Mississippi, Alabama, back down towards Chattanooga. NWS is saying maybe not so much down that way. But I showed you the boom forecast. That's also possible. Now let's move the NWS forecast into the Carolinas and take a look at their forecast here. Here they go. You can see the bullseye. This is where we're going to get the heaviest band of snow, most likely. This is where we have the highest confidence. Southeastern Virginia, northeast North Carolina. I showed you the bust model. You saw how it had that band of precipitation. Even in a worst case scenario, I think in here, we're going to get nearly at least half a foot. If we get the boom scenario, half a foot to double digit, even a foot of snow, not out of the question. In Newport News, Virginia Beach, back down towards maybe Elizabeth City, just kind of that tucked up corner of North Carolina and Virginia. Going to be the biggest winners out of this likely. And I'll add blizzard-like conditions, not out of the question. You're going to get these heavy snowfall rates. The storm's going to be cranking up as it pulls offshore. So that kind of offshore wind going to start to crank, blow that snow around. Probably not going to get blizzard warnings, but it might feel a little bit like a blizzard, at least for North Carolina, Virginia standards here as this thing is pulling away. Going for right around 4 inches or so in Danville. Again, we'll see. The boom forecast says absolutely. The bust forecast, not so much. Going for about an inch or two of kind of a icy mix in Raleigh there, really through much of the triangle, going for about 2 to 3 inches in Greensboro, High Point. NWS says about an inch in uptown Charlotte, but a very sharp corridor. So you go up towards Kannapolis, maybe 2 inches. You go back down towards Rock Hill, maybe nothing at all here from the NWS. So that's the forecast from them for snowfall now through 7 a.m. Thursday. So this could even be missing out potentially on that back end snow a little bit if it's slightly delayed. All right, I also want to show you a couple models because NWS forecast good and all, but let's take a look at a couple other possibilities. Here's the wrap, one of our short range models, and I think it's picking up on an important theme here. You kind of see this area of snow that's confined to northeast North Carolina, but then stretches back down, kind of has this arcing look to it. Again, the low pressure right offshore here, this is a bit of a deformation band getting going, and this is where we could get heavy snow if it happens, and I think it will happen. this area of just enhanced snowfall in general. I feel confident it's going to happen. The question is where. This model gets it all the way down into Raleigh, gets half a foot of snow in Raleigh, half a foot of snow up into Virginia Beach, back again to Elizabeth City, and just kind of some of these other communities in that region. Other models, we'll show you the NAM model, shows that same kind of band, but notice it's almost all the way back here into the triangle. And this is really from Thursday morning than the actual band, kind of the Thursday or the Wednesday band, more kind of just this blob, but you can still kind of see that general arcing shape to it. So the model's picking up on it. The FV3 model, the boom model I showed you, gets that big band of snow all the way back down into Charlotte, into the upstate, kind of Highway 11 corridor, gets some of that big snow, and then obviously big totals into Southeast Virginia. I'll show you the GFS model. The GFS, again, picking up on the same thing here, kind of see this band of heavy snow. I think it's going to happen. The question is, how far back south and east does it get? Does it stretch all the way to Charlotte, Monroe, Wadesboro, Kannapolis, Concord, or does it only get kind of back towards Raleigh? That'll be something we got to figure out. Definitely come back tonight for the live, and we'll go over the latest model data and kind of give you the latest on that. But those are some of the snowfall possibilities out of this storm. I think that are in that range that we're watching. What about ice? NWS Blenda models for ice. Highest ice is going to be in eastern North Carolina, Greenville back down towards Fayetteville, even potentially the beaches, Wilmington, Jacksonville could get some ice out of this, and could be a pretty significant amount. If we take a look at the NAM here, I mean, the NAM shows nearly half an inch of ice in that region. If we get enough precip, I would not be surprised at all to see about a half an inch of ice, something we'll need to watch for. That's enough to bring down trees, power lines, travel basically impossible with totals like that. All right. So briefly mentioning my friends in the Northeast, I know, trust me, I've read the comments. You're upset about this one. You're taking it out on me a little bit. That's okay. I understand. I was the one who's shown you the crazy models a couple days ago, so I get it. But let's talk about the potential still for at least a little bit of snow up here. This is the RGM model. I think handling the storm all right. You can notice the main piece of energy offshore, so not a lot happening from it. However, as our upper level energy swings through and kind of picks up, the main storm a little bit, notice how we get this connection. So I do think a band of some light snow Thursday afternoon could start down near Philly and Jersey and kind of work up the seaboard here through Thursday evening even, and then into the overnight, trying to stretch up into the Cape. Now, there are some areas I'm watching that we could get higher in snowfall. Obviously, that model didn't show a lot, but if we take a look at the ensembles, this is a couple runs ago on the European ensembles, and these are the newer runs. Notice it's ticking a little bit northwest, not a lot, but the ensemble mean now getting nearly 5 inches in Nantucket, the Cape getting a couple of inches. So it would not take much of a shift back, a very doable shift in the models of this range for this to become a pretty notable winter storm for Cape Cod, Nantucket, and even southern Jersey and southern Delaware could get in on a good little moderate winter storm, not out of the question. Now, going to be tough to get that in Philly, New York City, Boston. I don't expect it to happen there, but some of these very kind of far out coastal regions could still get some winter weather out of this event. All right, final thing to talk about, cold temperatures. Everyone talking about snow, myself included. Check this out. This is Arctic air spilling southward. This is Wednesday afternoon. These are high temperature anomalies, so negative 42. That means 42 degrees below what your temperature should be this time of year. I mean, folks, again, this is brutally Arctic air, and it lasts all the way into, this is Friday morning, Friday afternoon, into Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday. It goes out through the weekend. This cold air mass really locks into place. So whoever gets snow or ice, I don't think this is going to be one of those southern winter storms where the next day it's sunny and 70. It's going to take a while for this to melt. We're going to have refreeze issues, black ice issues. So definitely expect school delays and closures for a couple of days if you're in one of these higher impact areas within this storm system. Alrighty, folks, that's all I got for you on this morning. Definitely appreciate you tuning in, and I'm grateful for it. So definitely come back tonight as well. We'll be live on YouTube. I'll have a guest speaker with me. We'll be breaking down the latest models, giving you the pinpoint forecast for the Carolinas, Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, taking a look at current observations back where the storm will be ongoing. And maybe we'll even talk about the long range a little bit too, if we can find some time. Alrighty, y'all have a great one. Stay warm, stay safe, and I'll see you all tonight.